The fluorescent lights of Ashford Ventures hummed at 11:47 p.m., casting sterile white over empty cubicles and silent conference rooms. Marcus Hayes pushed his cleaning cart down the hallway of the 14th floor, the wheels squeaking against polished tile. Behind him, tucked into the corner of the break room with a coloring book spread across the table, sat his daughter Zoe. She was 6 years old with thick natural hair pulled into 2 puff balls on either side of her head. Her brown skin caught the overhead light as she concentrated on staying inside the lines of a butterfly she was coloring purple. Her tongue poked out slightly, the way it always did when she was focused on something important. Marcus glanced back through the glass wall. Still there. Still safe. Still his entire world. "Daddy," Zoe called out without looking up. "Can butterflies be purple in real life?" "I don't think so, baby girl," Marcus said, emptying a trash bin. "But in your world they can be any color you want." Zoe nodded, satisfied with this answer, and returned to her work. This was their routine now. 3 nights a week, when Mrs. Patterson from 3B couldn't watch Zoe, she came to work with him. Marcus knew it wasn't ideal. Knew that 6-year-olds should be home in bed by this hour, not sitting in corporate break rooms while their fathers mopped floors and wiped down desks. But childcare cost money he didn't have. The night shift paid $2 more per hour than the day shift, and those extra dollars meant the difference between making rent and choosing between rent and groceries. So Zoe came with him, and she never complained. Not once. She was good like that. Too good, maybe. Sometimes Marcus wondered if she understood more than a 6-year-old should, about struggle, about sacrifice, about the way the world worked when you were a black man raising a daughter alone on $32,000 a year. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Marcus moved to the next office. This one belonged to someone important. He could tell by the size, by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, by the furniture that probably cost more than his car. The nameplate on the desk read, Catherine Ashford, managing partner. He'd never met her. Never even seen her. The executives were long gone by the time his shift started at 10 p.m. That was the point of night janitorial work. You cleaned around the ghosts of other people's lives. You saw their family photos, their coffee cups with lipstick stains, their post-it notes with reminders about dentist appointments and anniversary dinners. You saw their lives, but they never saw you. Marcus was wiping down the desk when he heard it. A sound from the hallway. Footsteps. He froze, his heart rate picking up. No one was supposed to be here. Management knew he brought Zoe sometimes, had given him reluctant permission as long as she stayed out of the way and didn't touch anything. But if someone complained, if someone decided a 6-year-old in the office was a liability, he'd lose this job. And he couldn't lose this job. The footsteps stopped outside the office. Marcus turned slowly. A woman stood in the doorway. She was tall, black, with her natural hair cut short and shaped perfectly around her face. She wore a white blouse and tailored slacks, her blazer draped over one arm. Her eyes were dark, intelligent, and exhausted in a way that Marcus recognized immediately. This was Catherine Ashford. And she was staring at him like she'd just discovered an intruder. Marcus started. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm just finishing up in here. I can come back later if—" "Who are you?" Her voice was quiet but edged with something sharp. "Marcus Hayes, ma'am. Night maintenance. I didn't know anyone was still here. I can—" "Is that a child?" Catherine stepped into the office, her eyes moving past Marcus toward the break room where Zoe was visible through the glass wall. Marcus's stomach dropped. "Yes, ma'am. That's my daughter. I have permission from building management too." "How old is she?" 6. "And she's here at midnight?" Marcus felt heat rise in his face. Shame, anger, defensiveness all tangled together. "Yes, ma'am. Sometimes my childcare falls through, and I can't afford to miss shifts, so she comes with me. She's quiet. She doesn't touch anything. She just colors and does her homework, and then she sleeps in the break room until we go home at 6 a.m. Catherine stared at him for a long moment. Marcus couldn't read her expression. Was she angry? Disgusted? About to call security? Then she walked past him, straight toward the break room. Marcus's heart hammered as he followed. "Ma'am, please, if there's a problem, I can." But Catherine had already pushed open the break room door. Zoe looked up from her coloring book, her eyes going wide. "Hello," Catherine said. Zoe glanced at Marcus, uncertain. He nodded, giving her permission. "Hi," Zoe said softly. "What are you coloring?" Zoe held up the page. "Butterflies. This one's purple even though Daddy says they're not purple in real life. But I think they should be." Catherine tilted her head, studying the drawing. "I agree. Purple suits them. What's your name?" "Zoe. Zoe Marie Hayes." "That's a beautiful name." "I'm Catherine." "Like a queen." A smile flickered across Catherine's face, brief, almost surprised, as if she'd forgotten how. "Like a queen. Do you come here often, Zoe?" 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But only when Mrs. Patterson can't watch me because Daddy works nights and I don't have a mommy to stay with. Marcus closed his eyes briefly. The casual way Zoe said it, "I don't have a mommy," like it was just a fact, not a wound that would never fully heal. Catherine's expression shifted. Something softened in her eyes. "I'm sorry to hear that." Zoe shrugged. "It's okay. I never met her. She died when I was born. But Daddy says she loved me very much, and that's what matters." Catherine looked at Marcus then. Really looked at him. Not as an employee, not as an inconvenience, but as a person. A father. Someone doing the best he could with what he had. "Mr. Hayes," she said quietly, "I'm not here to get you in trouble." Marcus exhaled. "Thank you. But I'm going to make sure the break room has a proper couch. The chairs in here are terrible for sleeping." She turned back to Zoe. "Would you like that? A couch where you can sleep more comfortably?" Zoe's face lit up. "Really? Really?" Catherine set her blazer down on the table. "May I sit with you for a moment?" Zoe nodded enthusiastically and pushed the box of crayons toward her. "You can color too if you want. I have lots of pages." And just like that, Catherine Ashford, managing partner, one of the most powerful women in the building, sat down at a break room table at midnight and began coloring butterflies with a 6-year-old girl. Marcus stood in the doorway, completely frozen, watching this impossible scene unfold. That first night became a second, then a third. Catherine started working later. Or maybe she'd always worked this late and Marcus had just never seen her. Either way, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the next month, she was there. She'd arrive around 11 p.m., go to her office, work for an hour. Then, like clockwork, she'd appear in the break room doorway. "Is there room at the table for me?" she'd ask. And Zoe, without fail, would light up. "Miss Catherine, I saved you the pink crayon." They developed a rhythm. Catherine would sit and color with Zoe while Marcus worked. Sometimes they'd talk. About butterflies, about favorite foods, about whether unicorns were real. Sometimes they'd just sit in comfortable silence, two people finding peace in the quiet hours when the world was asleep. Marcus watched from a distance, unsure what to make of it. Catherine Ashford was a mystery. He'd looked her up after that first night. She was 34, a self-made millionaire who'd built a venture capital firm from nothing. She'd been featured in Forbes, Fortune, Fast Company. She invested in tech startups, turned failing companies into empires, and had a reputation for being brilliant, ruthless, and utterly uncompromising. She was also, apparently, the kind of person who colored butterflies with his daughter at midnight. One night, about 6 weeks in, Catherine arrived with a gift, a large sketchbook and a professional set of colored pencils. Zoe's mouth fell open. "Is this for me?" "If you want it," Catherine said. "I noticed you keep running out of pages in your coloring book." "Thank you." Zoe threw her arms around Catherine's waist. Catherine stiffened for a second, clearly unprepared, then slowly, carefully, hugged her back. When Zoe let go and immediately started exploring the new supplies, Catherine stood there with her hands hanging awkwardly at her sides, looking like she'd just experienced something both wonderful and terrifying. Marcus approached quietly. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to." Catherine's voice was soft. "She's a special kid." "Yeah, she is." They stood side by side, watching Zoe test out each pencil color on a blank page, narrating her choices with serious concentration. "Can I ask you something?" Catherine said. "Sure. Do you ever resent it? Doing this alone?" Marcus considered the question. "Every single day," he said honestly. "But not because of her. Because of what she deserves and what I can't give her. She should have a mother. She should have a house with a yard and a dog and dance lessons and a bedroom that's not also the living room. She should have everything. But she has you. That doesn't feel like enough most days." Catherine turned to look at him. "Mr. Hayes." "Marcus. Please." "Marcus," she amended. "I've been watching you for 6 weeks. The way she looks at you, the way she trusts you, the way she talks about you when you're out of the room. That child knows she's loved. Completely, unconditionally loved. And that's not nothing. That's everything." Marcus felt something catch in his throat. "Thank you. I mean it." Catherine looked back at Zoe. "My parents gave me everything. Private schools, trust funds, every advantage money could buy. But they never looked at me the way you look at her. Like she's your whole world." There was something raw in her voice. Something that made Marcus realize that Catherine Ashford, for all her success and power, was lonely in a way that had nothing to do with being alone. "Miss Catherine," Zoe called out. "Come see. I drew you." Catherine walked over and Marcus followed. On the page was a stick figure with dark skin and curly hair, standing next to 2 other stick figures, one tall, one small. "That's you," Zoe explained, pointing to each figure. "And that's me and that's Daddy. We're a family." Catherine stared at the drawing. Her hand went to her mouth. "Do you like it?" Zoe asked, suddenly uncertain. "I love it," Catherine whispered. "Can I keep it?" "Really? You want to keep my drawing?" "More than anything." Zoe carefully tore the page out and handed it over. Catherine held it like it was made of glass. That night, after Marcus and Zoe left, Catherine sat alone in her office with that drawing on her desk. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Catherine Ashford cried. The friendship deepened over the following months. Catherine started keeping snacks in her office, the kind Zoe liked. Fruit pouches, crackers shaped like animals, juice boxes. She bought a small couch for the break room, just as she'd promised, with soft blankets and a pillow. She started asking Marcus about his life. Where he grew up. How he ended up here. What his late wife had been like. And slowly, carefully, Marcus asked about hers. He learned that Catherine's family owned half of the commercial real estate in the city. That she'd built her own company to prove she didn't need their name or their money. That she worked 80-hour weeks because going home to an empty penthouse felt worse than staying at the office. He learned that she'd been engaged once, years ago, to a man her parents had approved of. But she'd called it off 3 days before the wedding because she'd realized she felt nothing. Not love, not joy, just obligation. "I thought there was something wrong with me," Catherine admitted one night. They were sitting in the break room while Zoe slept on the couch, curled up under her favorite blanket. "Everyone said I was too cold, too focused on work, that I'd never be able to love anyone because I didn't know how." Marcus shook his head. "That's not true." "How do you know?" "Because I see the way you are with Zoe. That's love. Real love." Catherine looked at the sleeping child. "She makes it easy. Love is supposed to be easy. It's everything else that's hard." They fell into silence. The kind of comfortable silence that only happens between people who trust each other. "Marcus," Catherine said quietly. "Yeah. Thank you. For letting me be part of this. Part of your nights, your life, her life. I didn't realize how much I needed it until I had it." Marcus looked at her, this powerful, brilliant, beautiful woman who'd somehow found her way into his world and fit there like she'd always belonged. "Thank you for seeing us," he said. "Most people don't." Catherine met his eyes. "I see you. Both of you. And I'm not going anywhere." It was a promise. One that Marcus believed. But 3 days later, everything changed. Marcus arrived for his Monday night shift and found a memo taped to the break room door. Effective immediately, night maintenance staff are prohibited from bringing non-employees into the building. Violation of this policy will result in immediate termination. Marcus's blood went cold. He ripped the memo down and went straight to the security desk. "What is this?" he demanded. The guard, Eddie, looked uncomfortable. "Orders from upstairs, man." Someone complained. "Who?" "I don't know. But they were serious about it. No more kids in the building." Marcus felt his world tilting. I need this job. I can't afford daytime childcare, and I can't afford to miss shifts." Eddie looked genuinely sorry. "I'm sorry, Marcus. I really am." Marcus stood there, the memo crumpling in his fist, and tried to figure out how he was going to survive this. Marcus didn't bring Zoe to work that Monday night. Or Wednesday. Or Friday. Mrs. Patterson agreed to take her for those 3 nights, but it cost Marcus an extra $40 per night, money that came directly out of his grocery budget. By the second week, he was eating cereal for dinner so Zoe could have real meals. By the third week, he was 2 days away from being short on rent. He applied for day shift positions. All of them required certifications he didn't have or paid less than what he was making now. He looked into childcare assistance programs, but the waiting lists were 6 months long. Every night, Zoe asked the same question, "When do I get to see Miss Catherine again?" And every night Marcus gave the same answer, "I don't know, baby girl." What he didn't tell her was that Catherine had stopped coming by. That the break room was empty now. That the couch Catherine had bought sat and used, a reminder of something that had been good and brief and was now over. Marcus told himself it was for the best. That he'd been stupid to think someone like Catherine Ashford would stay in their lives. That the friendship had been temporary, a novelty for a woman who had everything except the experience of playing pretend family with the night janitor and his kid. He told himself that, but he didn't believe it. 3 weeks after the memo, Marcus was cleaning the executive floor when he noticed something. Catherine's office light was on. It was 2 a.m. on a Wednesday. She was there. His heart did something complicated in his chest, hope and hurt tangled together. He kept cleaning, forcing himself not to look, not to care. But when he turned the corner, she was standing in her doorway. "Marcus." He stopped. "Ms. Ashford." "It's Catherine. It's always been Catherine. Is there something you need cleaned, ma'am? I can come back if—" "Stop." Her voice cracked slightly. "Please stop acting like we're strangers." Marcus tightened his grip on the cleaning cart handle. "Aren't we?" Catherine flinched. "Is that what you think? I think you disappeared. I think Zoe asks about you every single day, and I have to tell her I don't know where you went or why you left. I think—" He stopped himself. This wasn't professional. This wasn't appropriate. "I'm sorry. That was out of line." "It wasn't." Catherine stepped closer. "And you're right. I disappeared. But not for the reason you think." "Then why?" Catherine looked around the empty hallway, then back at him. "Come to my office. Please." Marcus hesitated, then followed. Catherine's office looked different. There were photos now, pictures that hadn't been there before. Marcus recognized some of them. Drawings. Zoe's drawings. The stick figure family. The purple butterflies. A dog that looked more like a potato with legs. "You kept them," Marcus said quietly. "Of course I kept them." Catherine sat on the edge of her desk. "Marcus, that memo, the one about no children in the building. I didn't know about it until it was already posted." "Okay." "No, you don't understand. I've been trying to get it reversed. I went to building management, to the board, to everyone who would listen. But the person who complained has significant influence, and they're refusing to budge." Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Who complained?" Catherine's jaw tightened. "My fiancé." The word hit Marcus like a physical blow. "You're what?" "Julian Cross. We've been engaged for 4 months. He works in the building. Actually, he owns the building. His family owns the whole complex." Marcus stared at her. "You're engaged." "It's complicated." "It really isn't." Marcus moved toward the door. "Congratulations, Miss Ashford. I hope you'll be very happy." "Marcus, wait. I need to get back to work." "He saw us." Catherine's voice rose. "Julian came by the office late one night, And he saw me in the break room with you and Zoe. And he didn't like it. Marcus turned back. Didn't like what, exactly? He said it was inappropriate. That I was getting too attached to an employee's child. That it reflected poorly on me, on the company, on him. He's the one who pushed for the policy change. Because he saw you coloring with a 6-year-old. Because he saw me being happy. Catherine's eyes were wet now. And that terrified him because I'm never happy. Not with him, not with the life we're building, not with any of it. But I was happy with you and Zoe, and he knew it. Marcus felt anger rise in his chest. So he made sure I couldn't bring her anymore. Made sure you couldn't see her. Yes. And you're still marrying him. Catherine looked away. It's complicated. You keep saying that. Because it is. Catherine stood. Julian and I, our families have been planning this for years. It's good for business. His company, my company, the merger makes sense on paper. And he wants children. I want children. I'm 34 years old, and every doctor I've seen has told me that if I want to have a biological child, I'm running out of time. So you're marrying him for a business deal and a baby. That's not, Catherine stopped. Maybe I am. But at least it's something. At least it's not going home alone every night to an empty apartment and pretending I'm fine with it. Marcus shook his head. You deserve better than that. Do I? Catherine's voice broke. Because I've spent my whole life being told that I'm too cold, too ambitious, too focused on work to be a good wife or mother. And Julian doesn't care about any of that. He just wants the merger and an heir, and I can give him both. It's transactional, but at least it's honest. That's not honest. That's settling. Maybe settling is all I get. Marcus looked at this brilliant, beautiful, heartbroken woman, and he wanted to tell her everything. That she wasn't cold. That she knew exactly how to love. He'd watched her do it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 3 months. That Zoe asked about her constantly because in that little girl's mind, Catherine wasn't some corporate executive. She was family. But he didn't say any of that. Because Catherine Ashford was engaged to a man who owned buildings and companies and probably half the city. And Marcus Hayes was a janitor who couldn't even afford proper childcare. When's the wedding? He asked quietly. 6 weeks. May 14th. Then I hope you'll be very happy, Marcus said again, and this time he meant it as a goodbye. He walked out of her office and didn't look back. The next morning, Marcus woke up to find an envelope had been slipped under his apartment door. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a handwritten note on expensive stationery. Marcus, this is not charity. This is payment for all the nights Zoe brought light into my life when I desperately needed it. Please use it for childcare, for rent, for whatever you and Zoe need. I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry Julian hurt you. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to fight harder. I'm sorry I let you both down. Please tell Zoe that Miss Catherine loves her very much, and that some people are lucky enough to meet angels. She's mine. Marcus stared at the check. At the neat, careful handwriting. At the signature at the bottom that looked like it had been written through tears. He wanted to tear it up. Wanted to return it with a note that said he didn't need her money or her pity. But then Zoe padded out of the bedroom in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. Daddy? What's that? Marcus looked at his daughter. At the little girl who deserved dance lessons and a bedroom of her own and a future that wasn't limited by his pride. It's help, baby girl, he said quietly. From Miss Catherine. Zoe's face lit up. Really? Does that mean we can see her again? Marcus pulled his daughter into his arms and held her tight. No, sweetheart. Miss Catherine has to go away for a while. But she's coming back, right? She promised she wasn't going anywhere. Marcus closed his eyes against the grief pressing down on his chest. Sometimes grown-ups make promises they can't keep. It doesn't mean they didn't mean it. It just means life is complicated. I don't understand. I know. I don't really understand it either. Zoe was quiet for a moment. Then, Daddy? Do you think Miss Catherine is sad too? Marcus thought about the note. About the drawings on Catherine's wall. About the way she'd looked at him last night like she was drowning and he was the only one who could see it. Yeah, baby, he said. I think she's very sad. Then we should help her. Like she helped us. I don't think we can. Zoe pulled back and looked at him with those huge, serious eyes. But you always say that's what families do. They help each other. Miss Catherine isn't our family, Zoe. Yes, she is. Zoe's voice was absolutely certain. I drew it. Remember? You and me and her. A family. Marcus didn't have an answer for that. So he just held his daughter and wondered how he was supposed to explain to a 6-year-old that the world didn't work the way it should. That love wasn't always enough. That sometimes the people you cared about made choices that broke your heart, and there was nothing you could do but let them go. 2 weeks later, Marcus got called into the building manager's office. Mr. Hayes, the manager said, we've had a request from Ms. Ashford. She's asked that you be assigned to day maintenance. Marcus blinked. Day maintenance? It's a new position. Same pay as night shift, but with better hours. 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Monday through Friday. The position was just created, and Ms. Ashford specifically requested you for it. Why would she? I don't ask questions, Mr. Hayes. I just follow orders. Do you want the position or not? Marcus thought about Zoe. About being able to pick her up from school every day instead of dropping her off before dawn. About sleeping normal hours. About not having to pay Mrs. Patterson $120 a week. Yes, he said. I want it. But you start Monday. Marcus left the office in a daze. Catherine had done this. Despite everything, despite the engagement and the distance and the goodbye, she'd fought to give him something better. He pulled out his phone and stared at her contact information. He'd gotten her number months ago when she'd insisted he have it, in case Zoe ever needed anything. He typed and deleted 5 different messages before finally settling on. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. Her response came 3 minutes later. Yes, I did. How is she? She misses you. There was a long pause. But I miss her too. Both of you. Marcus stared at those words. Then, before he could stop himself, then why are you doing this? Why are you marrying someone who makes you miserable? The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, can we talk? Not here. Somewhere private. Marcus knew this was a bad idea. Knew that seeing her again would only make everything harder. But he typed anyway. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. There's a park near your apartment. Riverside. I'll meet you there. The next morning, Marcus dropped Zoe at school and headed to Riverside Park. It was a small green space wedged between apartment buildings, with a playground, a few benches, and a view of the water. Catherine was already there, sitting on a bench in jeans and a sweater. No makeup, no jewelry. She looked younger like this. More vulnerable. Marcus sat down beside her, leaving a careful distance between them. Thank you for coming, Catherine said. Thank you for the job. I don't know how you pulled that off, but I threatened to leave the company. Catherine's voice was flat. Told the board that if they didn't create a day position for you, I'd resign and take my portfolio with me. They agreed pretty quickly after that. Marcus stared at her. You threatened to quit? For me. For Zoe, Catherine corrected. And yes, for you. You deserved better than being punished because Julian is threatened by a 6-year-old. He's your fiancé. I know. Catherine looked out at the water. I've been trying to figure out when I stopped recognizing my own life. When I started making decisions based on what made sense instead of what made me happy. I think it was after my brother died. Marcus turned to her. You have a brother? Had. Malcolm. He died 8 years ago. Overdose. Catherine's voice was steady, but her hands weren't. He was the good one. The warm one. The one everyone loved. And I was the cold, ambitious one. The one who cared more about spreadsheets than people. That's not true. Isn't it? Catherine looked at him. After Malcolm died, my parents completely shut down. They stopped pretending to care about anything except the business. And I learned that emotions were dangerous. That loving people meant losing them. That the safest thing to do was just not feel anything. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Marcus moved closer, closing the distance between them. But you do feel things. I've seen you with Zoe. That's not nothing. With Zoe it's different. She's a child. She doesn't expect anything from me except to show up and color butterflies. There's no pressure, no judgment, no fear that I'm going to fail her. You wouldn't fail her. How do you know? Catherine's voice cracked. How do you know I wouldn't be the same cold, distant parent my mother was? That I wouldn't damage her the way I was damaged? Because I've watched you love her. Really love her. You're gentle with her. Patient. Present. Those aren't things you can fake. Catherine wiped her eyes. Julian says I'll make a terrible mother. That I'm too selfish, too career-focused. But he thinks a nanny can handle most of it, so it doesn't really matter. Marcus felt anger flare hot in his chest. And you're still marrying him. I don't know what else to do. Catherine turned to face him fully. I'm 34 years old. I've built an empire, but I go home to an empty apartment every night. My parents barely speak to me unless it's about business. I have colleagues, not friends. And every time I think about the next 40 years being exactly like this, I want to disappear. So you're marrying Julian because you're lonely. I'm marrying Julian because at least it's something. At least I'll have a child. Someone to love me even if he doesn't. Marcus reached for her hand before he could stop himself. Catherine, listen to me. You are not cold. You are not damaged. And you deserve someone who loves you, really loves you, not someone who sees you as a business transaction. Catherine looked down at their joined hands. Do you know what the worst part is? What? For 3 months, I had exactly what I wanted. I had you and Zoe, and those midnight hours in the break room, and I felt like I was finally part of something real. And then Julian saw it, and he knew. He knew that what I had with you was more real than anything I'll ever have with him. Marcus's heart was pounding. Catherine, I'm in love with you. The words tumbled out like a confession. I'm in love with you, and I'm in love with your daughter, and I'm about to marry someone else because I'm too scared to choose what I actually want. Marcus felt like he'd been punched. You're in love with me? Yes. How long? I don't know. Maybe since that first night. Maybe since Zoe drew that picture of us as a family. Maybe since you told me she was your whole world. Catherine was crying now. And I know I have no right to say this. I know you probably think I'm just some rich woman playing at having a real life. But being with you and Zoe was the only time I've ever felt like myself. Marcus pulled her closer. You're not playing at anything. What we had was real. Was. Marcus cupped her face in his hands. Catherine, I'm a janitor. I make $32,000 a year. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment with my 6-year-old daughter. I can't give you the life you're used to. I can't compete with someone like Julian. I don't want you to compete. I don't want the life I'm used to. I want coloring books and midnight conversations and someone who looks at me like I matter. She grabbed his shirt. I want you. Marcus kissed her. It was soft and desperate and tasted like tears and truth. Catherine made a sound, half sob, half relief, and kissed him back like she was drowning and he was air. When they finally pulled apart, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. You have to call off the wedding. I know. And you have to be sure. Because if you choose this, choose us, it's going to be complicated. Your family is going to be furious. Julian is going to make trouble. And I don't have anything to offer you except myself and Zoe and a life that's going to be a lot smaller than what you're used to. I don't want bigger. Catherine's voice was fierce. I want real. I want you and Zoe and coloring books and family dinners and someone who sees me. That's all I've ever wanted. Marcus kissed her again. Okay. Okay. Choose us. Catherine pulled back and looked at him. Really looked at him. Then she pulled out her phone. What are you doing? Calling Julian. Her hand was shaking, but her voice was steady. I'm calling off the wedding. The phone rang twice before Julian answered. Catherine put it on speaker. Catherine. Julian's voice was smooth, professional. I'm in a meeting. Can this wait? No, Catherine said. It can't. I'm calling off the wedding. Silence. Then, excuse me. The wedding is off. I can't marry you, Julian. I'm sorry. Where are you right now? That doesn't matter. Are you with him? Julian's voice turned cold. With the janitor? Catherine looked at Marcus. Yes. I'm with Marcus. I see. There was rustling, the sound of a door closing. Let me make something very clear, Catherine. If you break this engagement, there will be consequences. I know. No, I don't think you do. My family owns the building where your precious Marcus works. One phone call and he's fired. Blacklisted. He'll never work in this city again. Marcus's jaw tightened. You can't do that, Catherine said. I absolutely can. And I will. Unless you come to your senses and realize you're throwing away everything, your reputation, your family's support, your future, for what? A man who mops floors and a child that isn't even yours. Catherine stood up, her whole body shaking with fury. Don't you dare talk about them like that. I'm talking about reality. You want to play house with the help? Fine. But you'll do it with nothing. No company, no family, no money. I'll make sure of it. I built my company from scratch. You can't take that from me. No, but I can make sure every investor in this city knows that Catherine Ashford walked away from a merger to be with her janitor. See how many deals you close after that. Marcus touched her arm gently. Catherine looked at him, tears streaming down her face. He's bluffing, Marcus said quietly. He's not, Julian said through the phone. I never bluff, Catherine. You know that. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize for this little tantrum. You're going to show up to the wedding on May 14th. And you're going to marry me like we planned. Or I'm going to destroy everyone you care about, starting with Marcus Hayes and his daughter. Catherine's hand went to her mouth. You wouldn't. Try me. The line went dead. Catherine stood there, phone still in her hand, her whole body trembling. Marcus pulled her into his arms. He can't do this, Catherine whispered. He can't threaten you and Zoe. He just did. I won't let him. I'll figure something out. Oh. Catherine. Marcus made her look at him. We'll figure it out together. Okay. But your job is just a job. I'll find another one. Not if he blacklists you. Not in this city. And Zoe, if you can't work, if you lose your apartment. Marcus felt cold fear wash over him. She was right. If he lost his job, he'd lose everything. His apartment. His ability to provide for Zoe. Possibly even custody if social services decided he couldn't support her. Catherine saw the realization on his face. I have to marry him. I have to. I can't let him hurt you and Zoe. No. No, we'll find another way. There is no other way. Catherine pulled back. Don't you see? This is exactly what I was afraid of. I'm toxic. Everyone I touch gets hurt. My brother died because I was too busy working to notice he was using again. And now Julian is going to destroy you because I was selfish enough to want something real. Stop. This isn't your fault. Then whose fault is it? Catherine was sobbing now. I did this. I let it go too far. I let myself love you and Zoe, and now he's going to take everything from you. Marcus grabbed her shoulders. Listen to me. Julian doesn't get to win. We'll fight him. How? He owns this city. Then we'll leave. We'll go somewhere else. Start over. Catherine shook her head. You can't leave. Your whole life is here. Zoe's school, your apartment, everything. My whole life is Zoe. As long as I have her, I can go anywhere. But you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to uproot your entire life because Because you what? Because you dared to love someone? Because you wanted to be happy? Marcus pulled her close again. Catherine, I would give up everything. My job, my apartment, this entire city, if it meant being with you. You are worth it. You and Zoe are worth everything. Catherine cried into his chest while Marcus held her and tried to figure out how they were going to survive this. Behind them, neither of them noticed the small figure standing near the playground. Zoe had been playing on the swings when she'd heard voices. When she'd seen her daddy holding Miss Catherine while she cried. And Zoe, being 6 years old and in love with the idea of helping people she loved, had pulled out the tablet Marcus had bought her with some of Catherine's money. She'd opened it to the page she'd been working on for weeks. The invitation her teacher had helped her print out at school. Said, "You are invited to Zoe's family day. Friday, May 14th. The school. Please come. I want to show everyone my family." She'd made one for Daddy, and one for Miss Catherine, which she'd been planning to mail. But now Miss Catherine was here, and she was sad. And Zoe knew exactly how to make her feel better. She walked over and tugged on Catherine's sleeve. Catherine and Marcus both jumped, spinning around. "Zoe," Marcus said. "What are you, school doesn't end for? Teacher workday, remember?" Zoe said, "Mrs. Patterson is supposed to pick me up from the playground at 11. Marcus checked his watch. It was 10:45. "Baby, you should have told me." "It's okay." Zoe looked at Catherine. "Why are you sad, Miss Catherine?" Catherine wiped her eyes quickly. I'm fine, sweetheart." "You're not fine. You're crying." Zoe held out the invitation. "But I know what will make you happy. You should come to my family day at school. That's where you bring your family and show them your classroom and your drawings and everything." Catherine took the invitation with shaking hands. "Zoe, Please come," Zoe said. "You're my family. You and Daddy. So you have to come. Okay?" Catherine looked at the invitation. At the date, May 14th. The same day as her wedding. She looked at Marcus. Then at Zoe. And for the first time since Julian's phone call, Catherine smiled. "Okay," she said. "I'll be there." Zoe threw her arms around Catherine's waist. "This is going to be the best family day ever." Marcus watched his daughter hug the woman he loved, and he felt something shift in his chest. May 14th was going to change everything. He just didn't know how yet. May 14th arrived with spring sunshine and impossible choices. Catherine stood in the bridal suite of the Ashford Grand Hotel, wearing a $15,000 dress and feeling like she was suffocating. Downstairs, 300 guests waited. Julian waited. Her entire future waited. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Zoe's excited. We'll understand if you can't make it." Catherine looked at herself in the mirror. At the woman who'd spent 34 years making safe choices. Smart choices. Choices that made sense on paper. She thought about Malcolm. About the way he used to tell her that life was too short to be unhappy. She thought about midnight coloring sessions and purple butterflies and a little girl who'd drawn her into a family. Catherine grabbed her phone and car keys and walked out. Riverside Elementary's gymnasium was decorated with children's artwork and pride. Zoe stood at the front of the room with other first graders, waiting to introduce their families. "My family is Daddy and Miss Catherine," Zoe had told her teacher. "They love each other, and we're going to be a real family soon." Marcus sat in the audience, checking his phone every 30 seconds. Catherine wasn't coming. Of course she wasn't. She was getting married right now, and he'd been foolish to hope. The gymnasium doors burst open. Catherine stood there in a wedding dress, mascara running, breathing hard. The room went silent. Zoe saw her first. "Miss Catherine, you came in your princess dress." Catherine ran down the aisle and dropped to her knees in front of Zoe. "I'm so sorry I'm late." "It's okay." Zoe hugged her. "You're here now. That's what matters." The teacher cleared her throat. "Zoe, would you like to introduce your family?" Zoe took Catherine's hand, took Marcus's hand, led them both to the front. "This is my family," Zoe announced to the room. "This is my daddy. He works really hard and makes me breakfast and reads me stories. And this is Miss Catherine. She colors with me and bought me a couch and loves my daddy." She looked up at Catherine. "And today Miss Catherine chose us instead of the mean man who wanted to hurt Daddy. Because that's what families do. They choose each other." The room erupted in applause. Marcus looked at Catherine. "You left." "I ran," Catherine corrected. She was crying and laughing at the same time. "I literally ran out of my own wedding because a 6-year-old taught me that love isn't complicated. We just make it complicated. Julian can do whatever he wants. I don't care. I have a law degree and a brain and enough money saved to start over if I have to." Catherine cupped his face. I choose this. I choose you and Zoe and coloring books and a life that's real. I choose love. Marcus kissed her in front of 200 parents and children and teachers. Zoe clapped. Does this mean Miss Catherine can live with us now? Catherine laughed. If your daddy will have me. Forever, Marcus said. The apartment was bigger now. 2 bedrooms, a small backyard. Catherine had left her company and started a new fund that invested in small businesses owned by working parents. Marcus managed the building where they lived and took night classes toward his engineering degree. And Zoe had a bedroom full of purple butterflies and 2 parents who colored with her every single night. On their coffee table sat a framed drawing, 3 stick figures holding hands. A family. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.